So week 14, the public went 9-5 ATS, and then week 15, 9-7 ATS. So still, they continue to stay positive, and it's like, I feel like over the last couple of weeks, we've kind of had our shift in our mentality where we've been like, okay, it's just they're doing well this entire year, and it'll be curious to see what they do next year. But at this point, it's like, who's to say that they're going to stop winning?
Yeah, it's time to cut back on we're in a bubble era. It's time to reel back on that a bit, and like you said, kind of accept this is going to be a good year for the public. Maybe we do look to the playoffs for that to change. I know historically there are some suggestions that the public will get slammed once the playoffs begin, but for now, I'm kind of, when I see public on one side, I don't necessarily just automatically fade, which is what the purpose of this podcast, of course. But I'm also not necessarily tailing either, just if I see the public on one side, because it just feels weird to be like, oh, the public's on that side, let me tail it, even though they have had so many successful weeks in a row. I'm just kind of discarding that information, if you will, and just going with what my research says.
It's like it's like a mental block where you don't want to bet, be like, hey, I should back the public because they win this year. And that's, again, like you said, the point of the podcast is to put context to the public betting data and be like, okay, you don't need to worry when a certain amount of bets is on a team and stuff. So it's really interesting from the podcast perspective, and then just as a whole, like, so we can sit back and say, I'll hint at it, but the public is 56% through 15 weeks in the NFL, which is just absolutely insane. But we'll cover that once we get all through these weekly trends. 4-4 on the over in week 14, 5-5 on the over in week 15. So we prefaced this a little bit a couple weeks ago, talking about how at the midpoint of the season, the public gets better at betting overs. And we know that historically they're just really bad betting overs. And we saw that last year. We saw that at the beginning of this year. But over the course of the last couple of weeks, they've been 50-50. And I expect that to stay the same. So we can't just sit here and say, okay, blindly fade the public when they're heavily backing it over. And glad to see that, our prediction that the midway point is coming to fruition there. Public on the under 2-4 in week 14, public on the under 4-2 in week 15. Nothing too crazy there. Anything on the totals, Andy?
I think the over thing is something I forgot about, that like public on the over does better
in the second half of the season. Yeah.
In the second half of the season. Yeah. So that's something I'm going to monitor, because I completely forgot about that, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I'll try and hit it harder when we talk about the general through 15 weeks trends too. Money in week 14, 10-4, money in week 15, 7-9. So kind of like a bit wavy there. I still think the money's going to hit hard over the last couple of weeks, because that's just how they do. Sharp differential 8-6, and then sharp differential 7-9 over weeks 14 and 15. So right about 50-50 across the board for the money in sharps. So in my perspective, I think they're going to have a good end of the season. I think, like I've been saying, they have so much information on teams. They are just getting more confident in backing the teams that they like, right? So if I have $100,000 to bet, I'm gonna put it on a team that has done me well over the course of the season and more likely win.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting that the money and sharps are sitting closer to 500 than the public are.
Yeah,
over the last 2 weeks. That's pretty baffling to me. So I think it's a fair prediction on your side that they should start to do a little bit better, especially as the season comes to a close here. I think too, I know that this happened last year, like when everyone's kind of been talking about how amazing it is that all these quarterbacks have played this season. I think we're at 58 different starting quarterbacks now, which is
fucking crazy.
Which is an absurd number. Last year there have been 59 by that point of week 15, apparently, which I feel like we kind of neglected to talk about last year, even though indirectly, right? We talked about it game by game, but not as a whole picture.
Sure.
I wonder if something like that plays into this, and it's a bit harder because we're realizing it more this year because the backup quarterback play has been so poor compared to last season, where it wasn't as much of a talking point because it wasn't nearly as poor, or at least the number of quarterbacks played was not nearly as poor. And I think that plays a big factor, where a lot of these offenses and what kind of day you're going to get from these guys is a lot more unpredictable than what we saw last year.
Yeah, you can look to the Chargers and Raiders game of Thursday night last week and be like, how the fuck do we think the Raiders are going to score 63 points? And
yeah,
it even also speaks to how low the totals are at this point in the season. 41.4 was the average total last week, and then the week before that it was 41.5. If I go to week 14 and 15, last year in 2022, the average total were 44.3 and 43.5. So it's just insane. That's a huge nail on the head. I think you just hit there. Like, yes, we've had a similar amount of differing quarterbacks, but it's just so much worse, or worse offensive play that we're seeing this year, and the totals explain that.
Yeah, I mean, I was all aboard the Josh Dobbs wagon, and then he has that wagon has now had the wheels stolen off of it, and we've got Nick Mullins at the helm. And then I tried to fade the Jake Browning train when I took the Colts in week 15, or excuse me, in week 14. That horribly missed. We lost by 20. And then I tried to tail them last week, and then that also missed. Like, you can't get these guys right as soon as you think you have it figured out, which is very, very detrimental. And I'm not calling myself a sharp bettor. My unit's $20, but I am going to say that I like to think I do a bit more research than the general public does that is betting on these games. And it's hard as hell to get this right. Yeah, it's hard as hell to get this right.
It's really interesting, and it'll create a lot of discourse, I think, in the offseason, which is one of the reasons I'm not looking forward to the NFL season ending, but I think there's going to be a lot of discussion had, and hopefully we can get some interesting guests to talk about this stuff over the offseason, because it's going to be really interesting. It's such a different year, at least as we're sitting in it. Let's roll through these rest of these numbers. Money percentage on the over. This is week 14, 3-2. Sharp differential on the over, 2-1. I mean, nothing to say there. Money percentage on the under, 4-5. Sharp differential on the under, 5-6. Right around 500 across the board there. Moving to week 15, 2-2 on the money on the over, 0-2 sharp differential on the over. Money percentage on the under, 7-5. Sharp differential on the under, 7-7. Nothing too crazy there. Let's hit the major totals to date trend. So, public 122-95 through 15 weeks betting in the NFL. That is a 56% win percentage, and by far the best ATS metric there is. It's just insane. It's absolutely insane. 120. Yeah. They're 27 games above 500. 15 games in the season.
There's not a lot of words you can say to put that into perspective to people. You just have to hear it and be like, "Holy shit, that is what it is." It's incredible.
And I'll say it again because I love touting why we started Sharpen the Public, but it just goes to show why you cannot fade the public, and why the narrative of that is so boring, in my opinion. There's so much data like that can be expressed and talk about when you look at these numbers. Like, if you look at the public betting above 65%, like, so when you see a side and it has more than 65% of the tickets, those sides are 7 games over 500. And if you just take everything out of account and like all the numbers that we look at, no one's going to expect that. People are going to just say, "Oh, wait, I know to fade the public. 85% of the tickets are on the side, go the other way." Numbers like that are 10-10 ATS this season. You're going to consistently lose against Vegas if you do shit like that. So just, I love touting us because I think it's so fascinating, but I do it a lot. So I'll try and get off my soapbox right now.
I think it's time to hunt some people down on Twitter and start to kill the narrative, and also plug the podcast while we're doing it. So don't just check my regular tweets. Go ahead and start checking my replies section too, because I might start firing off some shit with this ammunition of the public being 27 games above 500.
Yeah, that goes to show, subscribe and comment on our YouTube now. It's important. get the narrative out there.
We're gonna plug shit. Yeah. Subscribe. Like and subscribe.
Like, comment, subscribe, share, and follow. Thank you.
Yeah.
Money percentage through 15 weeks, 115 and 102. That's a 53% win percentage. We know from last year that they finished at 55%. So that's another reason why I think it's still going to keep creeping up there. But it's not to say that they're going to have, some awakening and go 15-0, 16-0 the rest of the way. But still interesting nonetheless. 13 games above 500. Sharp differential, ATS-wise, 110 and 107, Andy. They've also finished 55% win percentage in 2022, but at 51%, it's like, will they get there?
Not profitable.
Not profitable. No, not at all.
DJ, I have a better win percentage than the money in sharps. I'm at a 53.85% right now.
Look at you. You are a sharp.
No, I am the public. Actually, no, I'm worse than the public.
Yeah,
56%, dude.
What do you consider yourself? You're worse than the public, but better than the sharps.
I am Andy.
Follow me. The interesting thing there is that trend we've been talking about all year, 10 and 14% sharp differential between that range, 27 and 14 through 15 weeks. I kind of thought that was going to drop a bit, but clearly it hasn't. It's now a 64% win percentage all year. At some point, I think it was 70, but I mean, still, you don't expect it to stay at 70. So still at 64, still something I look for on Sundays. I still definitely need to do a better job of, like, when I put my article out last year, I was so much closer to kickoff, but now I try to get it out as early as possible so as many people can see it as possible. And then I kind of forget to look again before, at that 12:30 to 1 o'clock range and see where those special games fall into some of our special categories. And I need to be better about that. And hopefully I can be in the rest of the year, even though we only have 3 weeks left.
Yeah, within playoffs too. I think there too, it was also a matter of giving out more leans and then activating them into actual plays 5 to 10 minutes before kickoff. And I haven't necessarily given out leans necessarily, but I have tried to, when I give out my plays, do it about 5 to 10, 15 minutes before kickoff. And I think that was also it. But to be fair, there are more eyeballs getting on your article now because you're posting it sooner than 30 minutes before kickoff.
Yeah.
So
it's such a weird thing that we have to balance. But another disclaimer, I don't want it to be like assumed that we just purely associate this public betting data with outcomes of the NFL. We know that it's not indicative of obviously what's going to happen. We're just trying to influence, our takes and add another shot to the arsenal, right? By having this public betting data and giving out all the information as we can to all the listeners. So just a general disclaimer there.
It's to help arm your research, not to, or to maybe shy you away from some, not to just blindly go with the trends.
Exactly. Let's roll through it. 56 and 67 now for public betting on the over. And like I said, last year that was closer to 42-ish%, and now it's at a 46%. So we saw midway that they were terrible, and now you see them picking it back up on the over. Not to say that I think they're going to go positive by the end of the year on the over, but just keep that in mind. We're not in fade the public mode on totals. And then the under 54 and 39, which is a 58% win percentage. So that's still consistently hitting.
That's a awesome one. That's public on the under.
Yes, public on the under, 58% win percentage, and then specifically when they're not confident, they are 28 and 18 betting unders. So like below 60% of the tickets are on the under. Interesting there.
Yeah, that is fascinating. So that 50 to 60% range of bets when it's on the under is at 28 to 18.
Yeah, which is a 61% win percentage itself. So across all ranges, they're fairly okay. But like super high public on the under is actually like not positive. It's 4 and 5, but that's the worst range. So like maybe we're seeing, because everyone's backing the unders and the unders are so low now, things are kind of flip-flopping to what we saw last year. So all of that is just kind of context to keep in mind as we talk about everything, and especially game to game. But let's finish it out. The rest of the trends that we talk about: money percentage on the under, 76 and 59. Andy's favorite, sharp differential on the under, 98 and 71 throughout this entire year, which is a 58% win percentage as well. Money percentage on the over, 38 and 45. Sharp differential on the over, 25 and 23 to date. Anything else, Andy?
No, I think you covered it. I think that's all really good stuff.
Yeah, I think that was a good discussion that we had there. I know it's a lot of numbers. I apologize. One day we'll figure out how to, get a thing on the website to make it more easy for everyone, but we are not quite there yet. Maybe over the off season. If you guys have any suggestions, please let me know. And I appreciate everyone reaching out to me on Twitter saying that, the format that we do now is better and things are improving, but always feedback is the best thing. So thank you guys for listening as always. I'm ready to start talking about the games, Andy. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm ready to get this thing on the right track. I have been pissed poor since my 7-0 weekend in week 13. I've only given out 6 plays since then, so I'm ready to double that up. Come on.
I love it. Yeah, let's get it back. I've been kind of like teetering around 50-50. I went 3-3-1 last week, and I'm just like, I need that boost. And this is a slate that can get us there. We're gonna skip over Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, Andy. It's gonna be such a fun week. Glad I could do this here with you again. Glad we can get back on track here, recording Sharpen the Public. As always, thank you guys for listening and watching on YouTube. We appreciate all your support. As always, we're here every week breaking down the public betting trends, public betting data, and everything that's going on in the world of the NFL. So hopefully you guys enjoy. Please like, subscribe, comment, do all that fun stuff. If you're on YouTube, please follow and rate. If you're on Spotify or any of the other podcast platforms, we appreciate your guys' support as always. Keep following us on Twitter at DJHH Sports and at AndyHH Sports. We're putting out a lot of plays. We got a lot more content coming your way. Things are going to get so much more exciting here as we turn the corner into the postseason, and then even into the offseason. We got a lot of fun plans over at happyhoursports.net. So thank you guys so much.
I love you all. Merry Christmas and happy holidays. The boys bet better with beer.